ladies and gentlemen, independent Americans around the country, around the world, and especially anywhere inside Smokepocalypse. I don't know what we're going to call this smoke infestation that is happening that you can hear in my voice, you may see in our background. But when the smoke is rising in literal terms and in political terms and social terms, there's nobody that I can think of that would be better to help us address it than our favorite firefighter. The great and powerful Rob Serra is back on Independent Americans. Welcome back, sir.
What's up, Paul? Thanks for having me.
So I left the windows open behind me
Yeah.
because I want people to see what we're living in right now. And I know you just came from doing an interview in New York, back out to New Jersey, where you have this amazing new setup that if folks are watching on video, they can see. But can you just tell folks what it's like outside?
It's eerie. It's like walking around on Mars. I mean, not that I've ever done that, but it's like when you're sitting around a campfire and the wind keeps shifting every time you try to move your seat. That's what it feels like. You just constantly breathing in smoke. At least that's what I think.
And because I always ask this question, and it seems perfect now, Rob, where are you and how are you?
I am in my new studio, as you said, here in New Jersey. Thank you.
Right.
Um, I'm all right. I'm having a tough time today with this weather, breathing. Um, smoke like this is why I was forced to retire in the first place. So my sinuses are all swollen, my lungs are on fire. Um, you know, the usual 9/11 stuff. I talked to a few other 9/11 survivors today, and they're all feeling it. So it's a rough one.
I got to tell you, man, I was at an event with General Petraeus last night in Midtown, and I came out and I walked maybe half a mile to the subway, and I was kind of like, oh, whatever. And then I got out of the subway, and I'm fucking hurting today. Like I'm
Yeah.
feeling it. Like I feel it in my face. I feel it in my eyes. I feel it in my ears. I feel like it's activating things in ways that I've never felt before, frankly. And I don't know if other folks are feeling that same way. I know 9/11 first responders are feeling it, but for those of us that are also veterans, we've got toxin exposures to burn pits. So this is and this is all happening while we're going to talk about 9/11 and live golf and all of that. So it's kind of, and it's on D-Day. It was all happening on D. I mean, there's just this weird confluence
Mhm.
of events, but I think it's a really important time to reflect on a lot of things. But man, I said this last night. It looks like the closest thing I've seen to 9/11 since 9/11 outside in New York City, anyway.
Right. And think about it. That's what Lower Manhattan looked like, worse than that for 6 months,
Yeah.
as they kept telling us that we can go to work there, school, live there. With I mean, if you could see behind Paul, the you could actually see particles in the air, I think, today. It's a little worse than yesterday, but after 9/11, you could grab the air for months. So, um, yeah, ironic that they made that announcement on D-Day, huh? I got a big kick out of that. It
I'm
was
getting
uh, it was as 2023 America as you can get, right?
I'm getting goosebumps for so many different reasons in so many ways. And I think frankly, like I want to talk to you because I'm trying to kind of explain the emotion here. I think it's fucking people up. And in a way that we don't really understand or expect, not just physically, but emotionally. And I'm reflecting on the fact that like last time I was in this neighborhood and I was seeing this kind of thing, I didn't have kids. And right now my kids are down the street in a public school. And I said to my wife, I was like, they can't be going outside today. And now it's these rolling closures. They close Little League tonight. They're saying no kids outside. Now they got 2 days off tomorrow for administrative days. But I feel like this is impacting people in a way that is we're not fully comprehending. I mean, it's the entire Eastern Seaboard at this point, but now they're all kind of feeling what we felt on 9/11. Although the smell is different. I told my kid that this morning. It smells like campfire. That smell
Yeah.
on 9/11 smelt more putrid. It smelt more nasty, right? Like more rotten, I think, than this does.
Well, you have to remember they didn't recover many bodies after 9/11, so there was a lot of stuff burning down there. 160 different toxins, but one of them was human DNA. Um, burning plastics have a different smell. Firefighters will tell you. You could tell a firefighter can get off the rig and tell you what's burning when they get to a fire just because of all the different smells. So
Yeah, and there was this is base of, I guess it was asbestos drywall. There was like a powder, like moon dust, right? That was really, and this is more orange, and it's shifting with the wind pretty dramatically. Like I'm downtown, closer to the water, it's not so bad. You can feel it sitting in Midtown between the skyscrapers, and I got to go back right after this and go on NBC, which is going to be surreal. But Rob, can you talk more about how it feels for you physically? Because you've had a hard couple of months. You go through good times and bad times, but more about how it feels for you and other people, not just today, but when there's other kind of weather changes or other kinds of toxins in the air.
yeah, absolutely. It's funny you said that. The other day, I was at my son's hockey game, and as you know, I have peripheral neuropathy in all my limbs. And halfway through the game, I just lost feeling in my left side. Couldn't put my leg down. Everything was numb. And I knew that when I walked outside, it was going to be raining just because that's what happens. When the pressure changes, when the moisture comes, and I'm in an ice rink, uh, everything just goes numb. The smoke activates some different issues for me. I had a few dozen polyps removed from my sinuses, so I don't have a filter. I don't really have sinuses, so anything that's out in the atmosphere goes directly into my bloodstream. So you're talking instant sore throat, runny nose, coughing, chest congestion, like with one whiff. It's I wouldn't say it's funny, but someone lights up a cigarette next to me, one puff, and I'm sick.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of guys like that. Just what that shit did, and like you said, the burn pits, they have the same effects on people.
Yeah,
So
dude. I mean, I went to my 25th college reunion this weekend, and I smoked a couple cigarettes, and I felt it the next day, and then I was like, maybe I'm still feeling those cigarettes, but that's what my tongue feels
yeah,
weird. My tongue feels like it's dried out in a way
yep.
that's really different than and I guess frankly, like this is also happening after one of the worst allergy seasons we've ever seen.
Well,
So
it's still happening. We actually had spring this year for the first time in
yeah.
like 5 years, right? So
So all of this, Rob, is invoking a lot of things about 9/11 and a time when, yet again, here you are having to remind the country of how they've forgotten about 9/11, and in particular, Live Golf and now the PGA. After all this back and forth and people holding out against the evil forces of the Saudi regime that oppresses human rights, was connected to 9/11. That I think you'll mention the 9/11 families are still suing the Saudi government. We have this epic moral and patriotic collapse by the PGA after guys like Tiger and Rory held out and I think did the right thing. The earth moved under them, and there's this kind of evaporation of integrity across the country that's happening. And I think maybe this is the biggest example because, in my view, they said fuck you to all of us. They said fuck you to all the 9/11 first responders, all the families, all this talk of never forget. And they didn't even try to explain it. I mean, they used us as shields, and now they just fucking pulled it out and went for the money and sold out, a great American sport. But is this this is going to be a tough question, but is this a sign that now it's easier to roll us?
absolutely, I think this is our fault. We allowed it to get to this point, right? Um, I'm not surprised in any way that this is the direction that the PGA took. And when I heard Jay Monahan's explanation saying he knows he's going to be viewed as a hypocrite for all the things that he said, I don't know, last week, I just feel like he played the patriotism card and it didn't work. He thought he was going to drum up support and business through patriotism. But we're at a point in this country where they're more worried about driving over beer cans with their pickup trucks because there's a rainbow on the can than they are about, what America is actually supposed to be. They're getting distracted with all the noise and the nonsense. And that's why they get away with this stuff, and that's why, I'm a true independent. I truly don't pick sides. But when a former United States president host a golf event at his golf course with the Saudis and with the same company, the lid is off right there, right? We allowed that to happen. His supporters had no problem with that, but they're the same people driving over beer cans, getting upset about everything that they think is un-American. Well, what's more un-American than murdering 3,000 Americans? I can't think of it. When was the last time? When was our country ever attacked in such a way? You know, Pearl Harbor, yes, it was horrible, but that was a military attack. It wasn't an attack on United States citizens. And this was also an attack on the financial district in New York City. So these are people in finance going into business with people that murdered all their friends. That's how I look at it. My father-in-law worked for Kenneth Fitzgerald. He worked in finance. He probably worked with some of the people who put this deal together. They should feel ashamed, but they don't, because there's no such thing as shame anymore. You're allowed to lie, and it's like lying now in public is like a sacrifice bunt. It's not viewed as any. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just moving the play along, right? I don't know. I'm
That's
not
really
surprised.
powerful, Rob. Lying is a sacrifice bunt. That is really where we are. There's the death of integrity in this country. And
Yep.
I've said it before, and I've gotten some criticism or some misunderstandings when I say that if America were a religion, veterans would be the clergy, and I think first responders, cops, firefighters, they're the keepers of the flame. They're supposed to protect the country and its people above all other things. And you tweeted something that I think is really powerful. That you posted a picture, and I'm going to read it if I can, of your wife as a little girl. She looks like she's 2 years old with her dad. I'll hold it up to the screen for folks who are watching at home. And you said, "Hey, PGA Tour, I love this pic of my wife being taught how to putt by her dad. He loved playing golf up until he was murdered by your business partners on 9/11/2001. Never forget, #GFY. Go fuck yourself." Can you just talk about that? I know it's hard stuff, and I'm thankful to your wife for her continued courage and service, but I think you gotta bring it home for people like that. Can you talk about that picture and what you meant by that, and why you did it?
I did it because I was pissed off. Um, I would never, and you know this, I would never use pictures of my family to drive home a political point or anything. Um, you know, but I thought it was necessary. I had a conversation with a friend earlier. What if your kids want to play golf now and grow up and play? What do you tell them? How do you steer them towards golf if that's what they want to do with the rest of their lives? When basically the Saudis now have the run of the mill. Also, it especially I haven't swung a golf club in a while, but I don't think I would ever be able to play golf again. And I know that sounds hyperbolic, but that was a fucking personal fuck you to me and my family and everyone else. And my father-in-law really did love golf. He'd be watching every single PGA event if he was still alive. He'd be going there, taking my kids. He'd be, bringing my kids to the country club, and they took that away from him. And now they're taking golf and the joy of golf away from me and my family, because how are we going to watch it? The same thing happened with the WWE. My son loves WWE, and he asked to get a pay-per-view. I wasn't paying attention. I put it on, and I watch all the women come out wearing long sleeves and look like long pants, and I'm like, what is going on? Because that's not how the WWE sells itself, right? And I look up, and it's in Saudi Arabia, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? We're having wrestling. Wait, is there anything more American than the WWE in Saudi Arabia? No offense to the Saudi people, but fuck them. Like, I don't know.
I think
I've had enough. I don't, you feel the same way sometimes, like you're screaming into the void. But what are you going to do if you don't post personal messages? People aren't going to give a shit. Okay.
I asked you why you did that, because I know how personal it is, and I am, anybody who knows me knows I don't put my kids' faces out there for a lot of reasons, and I'm really careful about it, especially because things have gotten so threatening lately,
Right.
especially for those of us that are in the media. And it was interesting because I got back into golf really, because they were fighting back against Liv.
Right.
And I was like, sat with my kids. We watched the Masters in Florida, and we were talking about why Brooks Koepka was bad. He sold out. He was selfish. He was going for the money. And look at these guys like Rory and Tiger and others who are holding out. And the really fucked up part is they still held out, and the earth moved underneath them. They got sold out. You know, they sold out Rory. They sold out Tiger. And here's where I flip it. I think it's on those guys now. Like, this is a moment for Tiger that's bigger than any other Masters. He's the son of a special forces vet. He can fight back. He can leave the PGA. He can run for commissioner and take out Monahan. Like, I think those of us who do care about real patriotism and honesty and integrity, this is another call for us, man. And you've been doing that for so long. We can't rely on Jon Stewart alone, right? But it's a moment for patriotic Americans to redefine patriotism and fight for our country and fight for shit. I mean, this is a brilliant strategy by the Saudis to come for golf. And to come for WWE, that's a brilliant misinformation strategy. Go for the heart of it, right? Go for
F1. They're going for F1.
Going for F1.
I wouldn't be surprised if they buy the whole MLS.
Yeah, come for MLS, come for baseball, come for the NFL. I mean, remember the 80s when everybody was worried about the Japanese buying everything, and then there was the Chinese fear. But this is so much more effective and so much more nefarious. I mean, where they're pressing human rights, and you can be put to death if you're gay. I mean, it's really extreme. And I'm trying to find the opportunity here, Rob. And I think it's that this is a time for voices like yours to crack through. That's why I had to have you on this week, man. Like, the country needs to hear from you on all things. I've said that for many years, but especially right now, because you've been a conscience, and it feels like we're getting rolled. It feels like we're getting fucking rolled. And I think we got to stand up, and we had enough. And a lot of other people got to join us.
Yeah. That I've always found that ironic. Like, the Saudis, where do they get their money from? They sell oil, right? How come every quote unquote patriot that I see on social media is fighting alternative energies? Before Elon Musk took over Twitter, everything was anti-electric car, anti-this. And listen, that's above my pay grade. I know it takes fossil fuels to create the energy, but I also believe we could figure something else out. We could stop giving them our money. We could figure out a way, to take away their resources. Their number one resource is money. And that's how they're taking over our country, because, like you just said, our leaders don't have any integrity. They can be bought. I mean, it's sad, but I think more than any other time in our country, or maybe we just see it now, America is definitely for sale.
Especially Trump. You brought up the point about Trump, where folks may not know this. He hosted a live golf event, 50 miles from the attack site,
right? And
the families pushed back, and he didn't care. He just did it anyway. They said, "Hey, this wouldn't be a nice thing." This is the same guy who tried to negotiate with the Taliban on 9/11 at Camp David. I mean, there's a feeling like it's such a strange thing, Rob, because this is happening while right now, if I look out this window, I hear the ambulances. I see the cops and firefighters. Old people are going down. People with asthma are going to fall out in the street. Right. There's going to be cops and firefighters running out there again with fucking banged up equipment, and guys and gals who are still exhausted from COVID. They're out in the streets right now when nobody else is again.
Yeah, but again, whose fault is it? Right? What are we doing? Why are we so easily distracted by the nonsense? Why are we fighting with each other? I remember our first conversation, and my lasting message was stop fighting with people on Twitter. And what are we doing? Right? Now we're fighting with people on Twitter about Twitter. That's the point we're at. We get distracted. Really, I watched a video the other day of a guy running over 30 cases of Bud Light with rainbows on it because he was so upset that there were rainbows on his beer can. Right?
Yeah.
And when you think about Trump having... Yeah, you think about Trump having that event at his golf course. If you're a true patriot, how about look at who's advertising at that event? How about you boycott them? How about you boycott anyone who associates themselves with this new golf company? I mean, sure, they like to throw money around, but if it's not going to make money, they're going to stop doing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know who sponsors PGA. I'll just throw like maybe Omega. Or, yeah, I'm sure they do. I'm sure
Corn
whoever.
Ferry and other folks, Waste
Right.
Management, right? These are all the big companies that are involved, right? And I think that's where, look, I put this out there, and I don't know if it's going to catch on or not. I think Dave Portnoy from Barstool and others are all over this that I think are important voices. But boycott PGA, boycott
Right.
and I think, you know, me, I also want to boycott the Democratic and Republican parties and a lot of other dysfunctional components. But maybe this is an opportunity for us to rally patriots and independents in support of something that's truly patriotic and independent. It won't be the first fight, but like if they can take golf, they're coming for football and they're coming for something else next. I mean, and these are the things that actually people care about a whole lot more than politics. They don't care about a local election, but if you fuck with the Jets or the Rangers, that's a whole nother level, right?
Right. But I think they have us to the point where we don't even know what we're fighting about because we
Right.
don't even know what patriotism means anymore.
You're right.
They took over the American flag. I get looks from people for flying a flag in front of my house.
You're right.
And you know me, I'm not supporting a party. I'm not supporting a president. You know, I don't have a flag with a president's last name on it in front of my house. I have the American flag. We don't even know what that means anymore. And I think that's the genius behind their strategy. We knew in 2001 that they played the long game, right? That was retaliation from decades before. So, you know, maybe it's time for us to change our strategy. You know, maybe it's time for us to figure out what it means to be an American patriot because I don't think anybody knows what that means.
Well, here's what I will tell you. I've met your kids and I know my kids, and there's a generation of kids that are growing up learning about this. They're seeing us fight and they're seeing us lose. I had a couple tough conversations with my sons where sometimes it was just the local park that the developers plowed. And I said, look, buddy, sometimes the good guys lose. That's the fucking truth. It's not a movie, it's real life. And you got to steel yourself and you got to get back up and you got to get with other people who believe in the same things you do. And you got to keep fighting because sometimes I'm going to go down and you're going to have to pick it up, or he's going to go down and she's going to have to pick it up. I think we are, at least in our community, right? Especially the vets and first responders and people who are involved. I think this next generation is coming. Now, whether we can get them online fast enough and empower them fully without the whole fucking world burning down around them and them getting shot in schools is tough. But I do have some hope that this next generation is really incredible. And your kids are a great example of that, man.
Yeah, I mean, I hope you're right, but you know, it's I honestly I feel like it's up in the air. You know, I I don't know which direction it's going to go. I mean, I mean, I think about it, we grew up the first generation that lost the war, right? I mean, we grew up in the wake of Vietnam. We grew up, you know, probably at the lowest point in our country. Was you know the mid to late 70s, right? Um, we were able to pull through and bring America back. So maybe there is hope, but like I said, we don't even know what the enemy is and what they're trying to do
Well,
because they have us so distracted and so I don't even know what the word is, but they have us so unfocused on what their mission is that I don't know if we can figure it out. And the thing I worry about with the kids is we don't even know what they're watching. We don't know what's getting put into their heads with YouTube and all this. I see what my kids are looking at on their devices. I can't even follow it, you know, and they're looking at 4 different screens at once. It's a totally different generation, you know. So I'm
in
hopeful,
some
but
ways, sorry, good.
I just I'm more worried about what we're handing them. You know, what do we what exam? I know what example I set for my kids, but they seeing how other adults act too. You know, not just me. So
Look,
I don't know.
I'm gonna end on a positive note because I think it's warranted. Anytime people hear from you, they wake up and they do focus and they do follow. And if you follow Rob, please continue to do so. I put this out there. I didn't want to put, you know, the Pfeifer Foundation on the spot, but the PGA, I mean, you should be donating the shit out of money to all these nonprofits that help 9/11 first responders. But even if they don't, everyone else should. And, your work and the work at the Pfeifer Foundation, others, I think, is a sign of hope, and I think can help us carve out a bigger future. And I would be remiss if I didn't say, Father's Day is coming up next weekend, and you are one of the finest patriots, one of the finest leaders, and one of the finest dads I've ever seen. And I just want to thank you for that and encourage folks to be like Rob. Be like Rob Serra.
Well, thank you. And I would like to remind people that there is another 9/11 bill out there because they need to increase the funding. And I would like to emphasize what you just said. There's a lot of stuff that's not covered by that bill. So that's why the Ray Pfeifer Foundation exists. So if the PJ is listening and you want to do the right thing, how about you invest in taking care of those of us that were affected that day? You can check out the bill yourselves. It's $49.65 on the books. But I'd be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to my brother, Captain Andrew Serra, who will be retiring a week from today from the New York City Fire Department after 27 years of service to New York City. And speaking of good examples, good patriots, and carriers of the light, I can't think of a better example than him. I always appreciated the example he set for me. He played not only the role of an older brother, but after my mom passed away at an early age, he took over the role of a mother sometimes. So thank you to him for that. And I'm sorry to New York City for losing another keeper of the light. But if I know anything about him, he taught the guys in his company well, and they'll carry it on. So.
Well, we salute him. I was lucky enough to visit him. You set it up for me and the boys to go over with Lori and see him at the firehouse, at his firehouse, and those guys are an amazing group. And the fire department may be losing them, but maybe we can encourage him to launch an independent campaign for mayor, because I'm not too crazy about this mayor right now. A lot of other people aren't either. Maybe mayor, governor, some other political future will be out there, and be not just like Rob Serra, be like Andrew Serra, be like all the Serras, folks.
Absolutely. Give him a call. I think he's ready to go. So
let's go. All right, here we go. All right. Draft Serra is going to be the hashtag, and boycott PGA, support Rob Serra. As you say on your podcast, stay low. And I leave you with stay vigilant, my friend.
You too. And people stop fighting with each other on Twitter, as always.
And go Yanks.
Yep.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate you, brother.
You too.